And I'm going to make sure that things are live streamed. To my Chinese colleagues, I hope you all are seeing us on Xiaotong. Let me know if you're not. Okay, I think we're streaming everywhere we need to be streaming. So thank you again for your patience, and we're so glad to see you here today with us. I am very, very honored to have some special guests from 3 amazing liberal arts colleges. And I'm excited that today we're not only talking to admissions officers, we're also talking to recent graduates and alumni. So thank you so much for joining me, especially those of you on the West Coast who have joined us at 5 a.m. Thank you very, very much. And so just a few nuts and bolts before we dive into the topic today. We are going to play Spot Mr. View one more time. Well, we're probably going to play Spot Mr. View the whole time we do Tuesday Talks, but today we are still giving out an $1,000 scholarship. So you need to pay special attention to my window here. So make sure you have the gallery view open and you make sure that my window is always visible, because at any point, Mr. View is going to come and grace us with his presence. So make sure you take a screenshot and email it to contact@initialview.com. And we will be drawing from those emails, and we're going to congratulate winners. And so I'm just going to show you real quick. Congratulations to Adishri. I don't know if you're here tonight.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
She was our winner last week.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Tuesday Talks. I did not expect that. I'm really excited. Thank you so much.
So yay, we have had a winner from Hefei in China. We've had a winner from Victoria Junior College in Singapore. So hoping to have another winner from another part of the world next week. All right. So again, if you need support, language support, 如果需要中文的话, you can go ahead and scan this code or go find us on YouTube, and you'll be able to get a little bit more language support. And once again, we always want to say thank you to our high schools, our sponsor high schools, schools that have been helping us get the word out and have lots of students and counselors coming to see us. So thank you so much again. We could not be doing Tuesday Talks without you. Okay, without further ado, before we dive into me asking you all a question, I wanted to go ahead and ask my friends and colleagues and guests to briefly introduce themselves. So they're going to say their name, what institution they're from, and maybe what they're doing right now. So Jen, why don't you start us off?
All right, thanks. Hi, everyone. My name is Jennifer Hirsch. I'm Associate Dean of International Mission at Claremont McKenna College in Claremont, California, just outside of Los Angeles. What I'm doing right now, I guess I'll take that broadly. We just released final admission decisions for the class of 2026. So focusing on that group, but always excited to think about the future. So working with prospective students applying in the next couple of years. So we're very excited to be here as well. Thanks.
And I'm Karen Bartlett. I work for Middlebury College in Middlebury, Vermont. I also went to Middlebury a really long time ago, but that's why I have a younger alum with me here today. We also have just released our decisions and really excited about the class of 2026. And I will turn it over to Subin to introduce herself.
Thank you, Karen. Hi, everyone. My name is Subin, and I'm a recent alum of Middlebury College, and it's an honor to be here, and I'm looking forward to engage with you via answering these questions.
Mimi, do you want to take it?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Mimi. I graduated from Claremont McKenna College last year. I studied English literature and psychology. And right now I am based in LA. I'm working at Apple and I'm moving to the Bay Area in a couple months. So yeah, that's me. Kay, I'll popcorn to you.
Thank you, Mimi. Hi, everyone. Thanks for attending this webinar. My name is Kay. I went to Davidson College. I'm a recent graduate, so I graduated in 2021. I majored in economics and political science. I'm originally from China, but I'm currently in Chicago working for Morningstar.
Fantastic. Thank you so much again. And We have one more, hopefully, admissions officer joining us. She has some technical difficulties this morning, but Kaylani from Davidson will be joining us shortly. So thank you again for taking this time to meet with us this morning or this evening, wherever you are. And we are going to take a little bit of a different approach this week for Tuesday Talks, in that we're going to be just doing a lot of talking and not so many slides. So I know I saw a comment here that the screen is not clear. Don't worry, we're about to stop sharing it in a minute. So, but I'm going to ask a question and you can feel free to answer in the chat. And also, just so you all know, if you have questions at any time, you should go ahead and start asking them in the Q&A, because I'll fold that into the conversation. We'll definitely have lots of time for questions at the very end. But if you already have questions, you can go ahead and start asking them, because they might be questions that I already plan on asking. So, but what is the very first thing you think of when you hear college search process, college application process? So students especially, but parents and counselors as well, you are welcome. Go ahead and type in the chat what you think of when you hear college search, college application. And don't be shy. It's just on chat. You can say it anonymously if you'd like. Writing essays nonstop. Good. I want to cry is one of the answers. Oh,
I actually can relate to that.
Yeah. Yeah. What else? Let's see. I mean, nerves, uncertainty. Yeah. Something really serious. Scores, test scores, TOEFL scores, feeling really busy and scary. People asking, I mean, trying to figure out finding topics to write about. It's very complicated and complex, looking for a best fit. These are great, guys. And I'm really glad that you're being transparent and honest, because yeah, that is something that is it's very hard to kind of come in and can be overwhelming. And I appreciate you saying that, because that helps me kind of think about how to frame the conversation today. So, and so I think a good way to segue into that is, like, if each of, especially the recent grads, you can talk a little bit. I mean, Subin, I appreciate you saying, I can really relate to that. What are some of the first things that you felt when you entered the college search process? And we'll start there. I'm going to stop sharing the screen so people can see your faces.
So yeah, I can go first. So I kind of missed that part for my introduction, but I actually had a chance to revisit this whole search process because I'm currently in the grad school. So I know it's different, but the college search and grad school search share some similarities. So I say the first thing that comes into mind, whether if I were a high school student or a college grad wanting to go to grad school, was just research, like a lot of research about what do I want and what am I looking for?
Yeah. Where, and this is for anybody to answer, like, who did you go to first for guidance on this? And what did you do first when, like, that word research is kind of overwhelming and intimidating, you know? So kind of talk a little bit about who you went to first and what you went to first.
I can kind of jump in here. So initially, when I thought about the application process, I love what David said, writing essays nonstop. I was going to say so much writing and research comes with that. The way I started, because it was so overwhelming. So I grew up in Thailand. I went to a British international school, and I hadn't ever thought about like going to the United States for university, because no one in my high school really did that. And so after I'd seen a bunch of like TVs and movies, and I suddenly said, I kind of want to go to America, my mom said, you can if you figure it out yourself. And so I just was like, okay, I will sort it out. And it wasn't really super kind of like in place and structured in my school, which I know is different in a lot of international schools now. And so I went to my admissions counselor to begin, just to ask about, like, what does it look like to go to America? What are the tests I need? And I started just with like a list of overall requirements. And then she connected me with students from my high school who had gone to universities. And that's where I started to like build out my list. I spoke with them, they told me some more universities, and I had built this massive Excel document of just university, like who I knew there, if I could have a chat with them, and started in that way just by connecting and speaking to a lot of people. And it was super broad overall. Like I wasn't sure what my requirements were. And so I started out like really big universities. And then when I chatted and wanted something more liberal arts and smaller, then I could narrow down my list every time after every conversation I had. So yeah, happy to go into more specifics, but that's how I started. Kay, was the process similar for you?
It was very similar, Mimi, and I feel like you have a very professional way of approaching it. So good job to you on that. I just thought of one word when I saw the two questions that Gloria posed, which is negotiation. It sounds super large and vague. However, here are my two reasons. You negotiate with your parents. So some of you, or a lot of you actually, are probably from Asian families. So I imagine your parents are going to be pretty invested, or as invested as they can be, in your whole application process. So it's going to require a lot of convincing, which I'm sure Mimi and Subin did a pretty good job of when they're trying to present their different options to their parents and convince them, I really want to go to the US for college. I really want to just be at a liberal arts university for my undergrad education. So that's one part. Secondly, you're negotiating with yourself because you have probably you'll have a long list of passions and a long list of interests, a long list of things that you want to prioritize. So how do you negotiate with yourself and identify the key elements that you find are essentially the most important things in your application, in your later undergrad life? So a lot of negotiating to do.
Yeah, I love that. I love that, negotiating. So, I mean, this is all really great insight. And I think and Kay, you brought a good point, like a lot of parents may be remembering what applications were like in their own lives. And so if they are not, if they did not go to school in America, it may be a very test-based process. Or if they did go to school in the US, that was a long time ago, and things have changed. So it's hard for parents sometimes to know what the best thing to do is. And a lot of Asian parents, especially, and we're speaking specifically to Asia right now, only because many of the students on this call are from there, go to the rankings. So could you weigh in a little bit on, did you go to the rankings? What did you think of the rankings? Do you think they're a good source for research? And talk a little bit about that.
I mean, to be honest, so just a bit of my background. I'm sorry to just scatter my information like over and there, but so I was born in Korea, but I was also raised in China, so I understand this like, East Asian like family background and education atmosphere and whatnot. And I definitely did go for the rank, but if I were a, like high school senior again, who were looking into her college options, I would not just look into the rankings superficially, but really look into what portions. I mean, just like there are just many factors contributing to a higher row rank of a college, right? So for example, like diversity or financial aid, or like, I don't know, like those factors are just very important, and they do count toward those rankings. So really make sure that what are your priorities and like what do you want from that ranking, other than just oh, like I want this college because it's number blah blah.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, I would agree with Subin in that. Think about what is important to you and then look at those particular rankings. So if it is a large number of international students, like put that into Google. I remember when I was searching, I initially was really obsessed with rankings, and I was like, I can only go to an Ivy League school. Like everyone is gonna think of me differently if I don't. I remember I was obsessed with Georgetown. I don't know why, like I visited once and then I was like, I'm going here. And thinking about it, it wasn't the best fit for me like, at all. I only really wanted to go to it because it like like honestly, like for me personally, it like sounded cool, like people had heard of it, and people in Bangkok, where I'm from, hadn't really heard of Claremont McKenna. And so I was just nervous, and I was like, no one's gonna know where I go, and I want the status, etc. Like, oh, just be honest there. But I really realized that at the end of the day, it's super important to go to a place that is right for you and that you feel so excited about. It doesn't, again, it's, I know what it's like, and I know it's easy to say like you want to go to these particular schools because people have heard about them and they sound cool as well. But it is important to write out a list of like your priorities, and focus on that in terms of rankings, whatever that may be.
Kay, did you have anything to add about rankings?
Because I'll add one point, because I work for Morningstar, we do a lot of ratings for funds. So it's kind of similar to rankings that different colleges are kind of concerned about or very focused on. So here's a reason why most people are likely to be interested in rankings. It's easier. Like the answer is easy. Like they can compare things quantitatively and be like, oh, this school ranked number 3 versus this school ranked number 10. Like the conclusion should be pretty straightforward. But from a fund rating perspective, so let's make a metaphor here. If you're trying to understand funds rating, you wouldn't just look at the 1-year rating. A lot of advisors or fund managers, they look at 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10 year, even 15 years of ratings, and then they get to a conclusion of which fund would be a better fit for my investor. So similarly for your school rankings, because I think Subing and Mimi, you guys have set the tone that rankings are important, which I totally agree with. It is important, especially if you're considering working in like an Asian culture type deal after you graduate. So let's be honest here. Let's be real here. Rankings do matter. But my advice or my challenge to you is don't just look at 1-year ratings. Don't just look at 1-year rankings. Look farther into the horizontal axis of time, right? Go farther back in time and compare what are the 3-year rankings, the 5-year rankings of the schools that I'm interested in. And also don't look at rankings as a fixed point in a chart. Look at it more like a floating point, like what was the trend over years and what could be the potential reasons that contributed to that trend? And then ask yourselves, are those elements really important to me in my decision going to a college? I think that would be a very interesting way of approaching this process. And I can guarantee you it's going to be a lot of fun too.
Thank you so much for that. I've done many, many talks on rankings and no one has ever put it that way. And it's fantastic. I'm just going to ask the admissions officers real quick, like when you all are kind of doing your spiel and doing your pitch about why your school is so awesome, like where do rankings play in that for you all?
Well, I would add on to Kay's analysis of rankings. I think that's a great idea of sort of looking further into what makes a ranking, and just talk a little bit about the student experience and maybe look into the student happiness rating for some of these schools. Satisfaction and graduation rates are really important to sort of get a feel for how well students are doing once they're on campus. Maybe even look into where placements are happening in employment, graduate schools. So those are the types of things you might want to add to your sort of long Excel spreadsheet like Mimi had, to really get a sense of what the experience is like. Because, you might go to a name brand university that's widely recognized as a name in China or Korea, only to find that you're in a classroom, a lecture hall with 200 or 400 people. And yeah, maybe that professor who's giving the lecture is really famous, but you'll probably never get to meet them. As maybe one of the colleges that are here today, you're going to be in a classroom of maybe a dozen or 15 students where you're talking with your professor every single day. So it's just a very different style of education, and you're going to find a huge range in US institutions. So you want to be sure to know like what you're getting into.
Wonderful. Well, Mimi mentioned an Excel sheet, and you also mentioned a visit. So I'd like to kind of go into the how did you go about getting more information phase of the college search. And so, and someone asked on the chat too, like besides desk research, what other methods are there to kind of finding out about schools? So just wanted to put it out there. What kinds of things, somebody mentioned Googling, what kinds of things did you actually do to do your research other than just looking at one rankings list?
I can jump in here in that I was very lucky. I had the opportunity to visit, but when I visited, I didn't go to Claremont McKenna because before I visited, I only wanted to go to the East Coast and I only wanted to go to a really big school. And so I like mapped out all my plans there. And I did all the big schools like on the East Coast, even like some in the South. And I went to like one school in California. And then when I got to California, I realized how much I loved it because of the weather, but because there are so many great schools there. But also this entire like college search the trip I had been on had been really amazing, but it did stress me out because I didn't feel like I gelled with a lot of the universities I had been to. And so I came home and I was not restricted, but rather all I kind of had left to do was like the desk research. And I wanted the actual experience of kind of visiting my new, I guess, ranking of schools, which are liberal arts colleges, which is what I realized not too late, but a little delayed after my trip that's what I wanted to do. And so my main focus was just on connecting with current students. I would go on LinkedIn and search for people I knew who, you can filter it, who knew people at these particular schools. And then I would reach out to the people I knew and say, can you connect me? And I asked like my siblings as friends, and just kind of made a goal to ask around like 3-ish to 5 people from every single university, like, what was it like? And I asked them like, what do you not like about the school? What are some things you would change? Questions like that. Describe your day-to-day. A lot of them would video me and just walk around in their day-to-day, showing me what it was like, which was so amazing. And again, if anyone is interested in CMC, I can connect you to my sister who is a first year at CMC right now, and she can do the same. And any CMC student I know would do that. But I think it's important to connect with students and ask the really honest questions. If you can't get out and visit, that's what I would do.
Yeah. How about Subin and Kay? What are some methods of research that you took?
So when I was applying, it's a shame because I did visit a lot of liberal arts college, but not Middlebury. And Middlebury, like was the one I got into and I just loved it so much. So I would say like, if you have the options, please do visit, please go visit and please talk to the officers or the students on campus or whoever you can meet there, because they're all going to provide resources. And just for those people who are not having that opportunities or don't have the resources, as Mimi said, yes, LinkedIn is the way, but I am also curious how many of the audience would not know about, maybe they know about LinkedIn, but they are maybe afraid to reach out to people, because I had a lot of those friends even when I was in undergrad, like they're college students, but they were still very afraid to reach out to the people who are just, out there. But just regard it as a professional Facebook. They are going to be nice to you, especially when you clarify that you're a high school students who are looking for this information is such and such. And I would say like the more you reach out, it's more likely that you're going to gather the more accurate information about the status quo. So yes, LinkedIn, yes. And don't afraid to reach out to the alumni chapter in your city or country. And just for example, Seoul, I'm currently residing in Seoul, and we do have an alumni chapter, and we are very happy to host or serve the students who are possibly interested in, applying to Middlebury College. So yeah, it also involves a little bit of research. So sorry to add this burden to your shoulders, but yes, LinkedIn, and yes, the alumni chapters in your current region.
And I'm just going to echo Subin and Mimi here. Definitely reach out to people. Most people love to talk about themselves. It's kind of our nature. So if you're interested and you show that you're interested in learning the stories of others, reach out. Like, people are happy, more than happy to tell you like what was your undergrad experience like and how they landed on their current jobs or current grad school choice, things like that. I would only add one point is there are tours that are where college admission officers are coming to you. So for those of you who are in China, be sure to check out the liberal arts college tour. That's still a thing, because that's how I met Kaylani, and I was able to do a kind of like an interview, if you think about it, because any interaction you have with an admissions officer, it's probably going to turn into some kind of impression that may determine your admission result, right? So whenever you get the chance to interact with admission officers, and probably preferably in a more official context, then go for it. And also, schools do offer virtual tours. When I was in senior year of my college experience, I was one of the tour guides for our virtual tours around Davidson, which is super awesome. Like, you get to watch on camera to see all the different corners of your school, what it's going to look like, and then you also get to hear student experiences. So a lot of resources out there to do your research.
Fantastic. We came up with some things that might be ways that people you want to reach out to. And I'm so happy that all three of you kind of mentioned these things already. But I just wanted to put it on a slide in case you kind of missed something. Definitely, I know that the travel piece is really challenging right now because of COVID. So a lot of people are not going to have as many opportunities just right now to visit campuses. And so you definitely want to spend some time seeing how you can do that virtually. And so I really appreciate all of you saying, like, we're here to talk to you, and we're here to answer questions, and we're even here to like bring the phone around campus and show you the campus through the phone. So those are wonderfully, like, when I was applying to school, we didn't have that technology. So that technology is wonderful for you to be able to get a sense of what the campus is like. Lots of short videos that all of these colleges do now. And specifically for liberal arts, I think there are a lot of resources out there for virtual fairs and info sessions. So, but again, I think what you all said is really important. There's a little bit of confidence that you need, but it's not scary. There are many, many people out there who are like waiting for you to reach out. So, so don't be afraid to do that. Admissions officers, do you have something to add about kind of what resources you all might have? Mimi gave a suggestion of just emailing, and I think that you welcome that. We've done a session about like how to email an admissions officer, so I'd encourage you to go back and watch that one. But admissions officers, do you have any advice?
Yeah, I always say, get in touch. One, we offer more virtual than we ever have, and we will continue virtual. 15 on 15 is one that all three of us participate in every 15th of the month, all the way till December. And I would just say, get in touch with our current students. I would say it's getting the recommendations from those who are actually experiencing the place, who have experienced it, rather than reading, on different websites, where a student can be anonymous, so what they're posting. I would say get the kind of real experience from the current students or recent alums. But yes, be bold and reach out. This is the time to definitely get that confidence and reach out to us.
So go ahead, Karen.
I was just going to say, my own kids are in high school, and so the way I get the ball rolling with both of them is to get the big fat Fisk guide and just leave it on the kitchen counter. And eventually somebody will open it and start reading. And I think those are good sort of synopses of colleges, real talk about each of the colleges in there.
Wonderful. Well, so we a lot of people are here because they probably on some level have heard of liberal arts, understand a little bit about liberal arts colleges, but there are others here that may not know a ton about liberal arts colleges. So how did you all kind of, I mean, Kay mentioned the LAC tour and that's how she kind of learned about, but how did you all learn about liberal arts and decide that that was the direction you wanted to head?
I think I learned about liberal arts when someone told me it was similar to the IB program, which is what I did. And I mean, it was very tough, but I liked the IB program a lot because it allowed me to do so many different subjects. And that's what I think of when I think of liberal arts, especially at CMC, not just doing so many different subjects, despite what you might major in, but also being able to kind of interweave them together and think about economics in your literature classes, or think about like theater and your accounting classes, which I have stories about. And so that's what liberal arts was to me. And that's what I knew I wanted because I wasn't sure about what I wanted to do after college, or even like going into college. I came into CMC having declared like a public policy and government major. And then I ended up trying out different things and I switched to literature and psychology. And I'm like not really doing that now after graduation, but CMC sets me up. And I mean, I know a lot of liberal arts colleges do so, but CMC especially set me up to believe that I could do absolutely anything with the many subjects and like across the humanities and the social sciences that I took. Unless you want to be a doctor and study pre-med, you can do anything. And CMC really does like instill that in their students' education. So yeah, that's liberal arts to me. Yeah, Kay, do you have the same thoughts? Or Subin?
Similar to you, Mimi, that liberal arts calling to me was mainly about the relationships that we were able to establish. So the schools are going to be smaller than the big universities out there. So shameless plug here, I actually participated in this research program. So shout out to the Pioneer alumni or Pioneer participants out there in this meeting. But basically through that research program, it was clear to me that I wanted to be in a place where I can establish really close connections with my professors. So that really like one-on-one attention, even in class, the class sizes are small enough that you can easily get the attention and hear guidance from your professors. And then that goes on outside of classrooms as well. So just if professors have their schedules up, just book an appointment with them. And then you may end up talking like a lot of different things that are not even related to your class material, but all of those conversations are going to stick with you. Those words of guidance will follow you throughout the entirety of your college experience, as well as blending into your work experience later even. So, and you also, those connections will continue after you graduate. Like I back in November last year, I finally visited Davidson after graduating, and it was great to be on campus again and to be able to just step into an office hour with one of my former professors, and not just professors, even I was in the chaplain's office talking to our college chaplain a little bit to catch up on what's been going on campus, how's life in Chicago for me, things like that. So it's really wonderful to be able to celebrate those connections.
Yeah. So yes, my hot button for liberal arts also was the relationship, but I was more geared toward my relationship with friends because Middlebury being a residential college, I was literally like, eating with my friend, taking class with my friends, and like studying with my friend after class, and again, like, having dinner with my friends, like just continuous like relationship building with my friends. And I would like to let you approach this environment, maybe not necessarily from the capitalistic view about like how these people are going to be your connections. It is so true that they are going to be helpful like in real life, but they are also going to be lifelong friends. And I have a lot of like really close friends from my undergrad time. And I still get emotional whenever I talk about like this one certain professor, like what she did to me when I was like freshman in college and when I was in need and etc. So it's just a really great opportunity to meet people and cultivate the very special relationships when you are in your early 20s.
Yeah, so I'm going to go back for a second and remember that when we started this talk, when we asked about the college search process, there's like stress, scary, like writing the essays and everything, and how that might be related to what we're talking about now. And I think that there's this question of fit, right? And there's this question of like, what is going to be the best environment for me? And if you kind of know what kind of environment you want, then it might inform the way that you go about writing your essays and presenting yourself. So what type of student, now that you've been through it, through both the application process and the actual college experience and now working in grad school, what types of students do you think would be the most successful at a liberal arts college?
I would say two qualities. First, you have to be proactive, because even though like I'm assuming like all of these schools are small, but still like you have to be very clear about what you want, and you have to know like who to reach out so you get what you want. And the second is resilience, because just speaking from my own experience, I love Middlebury College being in Vermont and just the beautiful nature and etc. But still some parts of the environment might be challenging for people. So maybe it's like, it's impossible to expect like everything, but you have to have certain resilience to jump back from the difficulties and engage with your coursework or your social life or your career path, like again, from that point.
I was going to say proactive as well, but I will say adventurous, perhaps, like someone who is open to trying something new and open to going into like a liberal arts college environment with the idea that maybe you haven't got everything figured out, but you are so open and excited to try and take on new challenges, join kind of like new clubs, classes, reach out to people. So I would say like adventurous in that sense, and then perhaps balanced. I guess speaking specifically more as a CMC student as well, CMC has so many opportunities, academic, social, everything wise, and it can get overwhelming sometimes, but it can also be super exciting. So just having the ability to go out there, have the adventure, be proactive to take that adventure, but then also know that once you do all that, it's important to be balanced and figure out what are the things worth exploring to you, and what you're going to fill up your like schedule and day with.
So similarly, students at Davidson are very self-driven. You can tell by the fact that they're walking really quickly from classes to classes and then trying to get that perfect spot to study in the library. I'm just kidding. Like, we're all very friendly and we really love each other, but there are some spots in the library that you prefer more than others. So some students, you can see it in their look, like as they're walking towards that spot to study or hang out with friends, right? So being very clear about what they want and what they're passionate about, and then being self-driven in order to get to their goals, that's probably the main characteristics. I would also like to add that you have to be a little creative, because as Mimi and Subin, you guys have mentioned, time constraint is probably your biggest enemy. Like, there's just so much out there that you can do at a liberal arts college, and people are so willing to help you in different ways that you might be a little lost because there are so many options. So you have to be a little creative about how you balance your schedule, and then how you eventually get to the things that you really want to prioritize on.
Admissions officers, as you hear these recent grads talk about their characteristics of a successful student, when you're reading applications, how do you get a sense of those things, those characteristics that they're very much talking about right now?
I'll jump in. I think there's a few ways that we get this information, but sort of broadly, we get this information usually directly from the student. So like in your essays, which I know essays have been mentioned a lot. Also, pretty importantly, are the interviews. The interviews that there's a variety of options, including initial view. But this is where we're really able to see sort of the authentic personality of the student in a visual and spoken way versus just a written way. And there's big differences between the written and the verbal, and being able to see and hear a student, whether it's in the initial view or through any that we might offer through a write-up to someone else kind of expressing how they've interacted with you. Those are important ways for us to really gather the authentic personality and be able to really understand some of these qualities that you have that you're excited to share in your college community. And more importantly, our job is to really understand how that aligns with the culture and community of the college, and making sure that those things align so that the match, the fit, all of these words are coming into play here, because we want you to thrive in our environment. And if you heard from all of our alumni, they dropped different clues and information about how they thrived in their environment and at their individual schools. And you'll see some similarities, but you also see differences. And that's where then I lead to being really honest about your college search and where you see the fit. And if you see the fit clearly, it helps us see that fit as well as we're reviewing your application. So that's my 2 cents. I'm sure there's more to cover.
Karen or Kaylani, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, I would just say, and trust the process, so we are, just like you're looking for the fit, we are looking for the fit as well. So hopefully, if all goes correctly in this process, we both find each other. And so I would say for sure that the application, sort of those places that Jen mentioned, but also the interview, there's alumni interviews, there's also initial view or third-party interviews. Personally, the third-party interviews are really helpful because they are actually in your file. Alumni interviews are great. It's a great chance for you to meet somebody in your area who went to the college and do some more research that way. But that we won't get it firsthand, sort of what you guys talked about. We'll get some notes. And so that isn't always as helpful to us on our end as seeing your smiling face talking about what you like to do.
And I'll add, Kay mentioned that she met me at the lab tour. I remember that. That was a long time ago, but I do remember that. And so some of those interactions, but I would say the written pieces as well in your supplements, when we ask for a why Davidson, why Middlebury, why Claremont McKenna, be yourself, right? We are looking at what do you love about this place and why are you applying? We start to see some of those attributes through that, and also through your letters of recommendation. We read closely what your teachers say about you and your counselor, if you have one. Are you a proactive student? Are you helpful to others? These things go into that idea of fit. And if we could see you as a student of our community at a liberal arts.
Fantastic. Well, I mean, I think back when I was applying to college, and this notion of what am I going to study and what do I want to major in was like really big in my head. And I was like, I don't really know, but I feel like I need to know in order to do a good application. So I kind of want to like segue into that a little bit. I mean, Mimi already said she switched majors, but are you majoring in what you thought you were going to major in? Are you supposed to write about what you want to major in your application? I don't think anybody can pay attention to what I'm asking right now. But okay, sorry, back to majors. Did you know what you wanted to major in? Did you actually write about that in your application? Did you end up majoring in it? And how did your goals kind of change?
So I have a lot of stories about majors because I happened to be the one who changed your major in my senior year. So like I don't want you to do that. to our precious audience because it's not good. But so I like first when I went in, I wanted to major in international study, focusing on East Asia. And at the end, I switched up to this joint major of Chinese literature and cultures and Japanese studies, and which you might say that they are quite similar. And to be honest, it was. So it wasn't a big leap as from, computer science to French. So the transition was not that difficult, but still it was a process. So just answering the question, I knew what I wanted to do, and I did appeal it on my essay, and I assume that it might be a plus, and I think I have to hear from these admission officers, but it's better to appeal what you want and how can this college support that ambition in a way. So I would say maybe you don't have to know specific course title as international global studies focused on East Asia. It was quite lengthy, but as long as you have a vision of what field that we wanted to do and what would you like to study about it, and I think that would be sufficient.
Any other thoughts on majors?
I guess I can jump in real quick. Unlike Subin, I really respect your courage to be able to switch in your senior year. But again, I would echo Subin, don't do that. It's probably going to stress you out, especially at a liberal arts college, because our academics are really intensive. So plan your thoughts before you take the leap. But for me, basically, I went into Davidson knowing that I want to study somewhere along the lines of international relations. So I declared political science, but I also declared another major, economics, because I loved the accounting class that I took. And I found that professors in the econ department are really nice. They're really willing to offer you guidance in so many different ways. So that's ended up being my two majors. In terms of, I would like to take a little tangent here. So in terms of writing essays, which I'm sure a lot of you in the audience are really interested in, I think you have one mission to accomplish, and that is through your words, allow your admission officers to kind of picture you on campus, whether that's academically, whether that's student life aspects. Kaylani, you might be more interested in reading an essay that would allow you to see, I wonder if this kid can end up being an X at Davidson or a Y in the student club or something. If you're able to accomplish that goal, then your essay is a really good success, because that's the fit that the admission officers are looking for. So whether that's the Y essay or Y major essay, take that approach, and it's going to be fun for you to write about it, and it's going to be more fun for the admission officers to read your essays.
I love that advice. And yeah, I mentioned before, just switching back to about majors, I started with government, realized I did not want to do government at all by taking a class. It was great. The professor was awesome, so truly awesome, but not my vibe. The way I figured out what I wanted to end up majoring in was I kind of did the planning it out thing that Kay mentioned, in that I went on CMC's website and tracked all the possible majors I could do and all the requirements where I could fit it in. But I also looked outside of CMC, because we're part of the Claremont Consortium, and it's 5 undergraduate colleges, academically and socially intertwined, and you have the option to major at one of those as well. So I was also considering sociology through Pomona, anthropology at Scripps, and so I know I wasn't just kind of restricted to one particular campus. I had all these other academic resources, and I ended up majoring into Lit and Psych, which are CMC majors anyway, and had the best 4 years of my life. Love those subjects and desperately want to go back to school. I miss it. But yeah, I planned it out with the classes I would need to take, and then met with professors and the academic advisors for those majors just to learn about it.
Can I just add one quick thing from?
Yeah, of course.
Also, so Mimi mentioned, like yes, like read the, descriptions about the course, but maybe also like just going back to our previous conversation about like how you should learn to reach out. I just recall like how I actually I worked with courage to like, reach out to this professor in education department, and back then like in Middlebury education wasn't a department, it was like a program, but I'm still like I had the opportunity to talk to the professor and got a glimpse of like how the workload is going to be, and I just had to have the knowledge in advance, which was very helpful for me to usually clear a picture like what I wanted to do in college. So again, like don't afraid to reach out to the people like alumni, of course, but the professors' email addresses are out there. So and if as long as you introduce yourself very like politely saying I'm a prospective student, I'm interested in this major, can you please give me descriptions about like this course X, Y, and Z, and I'm sure they'll be very, very helpful because they are the experts of that coursework.
Thank you so much. And I'm just noticing the time and we only have a few more minutes. So I want to make sure that if you all have questions that I haven't asked, go ahead and start asking them. I know that all of these people are really happy. We've talked about reaching out. These people are all very happy to actually like entertain questions. So if we don't get to it, please make sure that you do reach out. But I am going to share the screen again, because we do have some admissions officers have given us some words of advice that we can think about. And as you all are looking at that and thinking about questions you might want to ask, I did have one more question for the recent graduates, because I want to go back to that beginning of that stress level that we saw in the chat. What would you, if you could go back and do high school again, like what would you do differently, or how would you spend your time, or what do you wish that you had done more because you were too consumed by maybe the college application process? Is there anything you would have done differently, and what kind of words of encouragement do you have for the students that are in that boat right now? Or maybe you did it all right and I'm the only one who regrets.
If I had the opportunity to really leave my high school year, especially senior year, I would work out more. And I know this sounds like a really like cliche, but there are just many people telling you like the benefit of working out, so I'm not going to reiterate them, but like it really gives you the mental energy. And what I noticed from like, as I went to like Korean public school and as well as Chinese public school, so I'm just speaking from those perspective, like I did not have the opportunities to, like really like work out, and that which was like directly related to my like physical health and mental health, especially the latter part. So yes, like it's very important and it's very stressful to, like do a lot of assignments and research your college, write the application, etc. But spend some time on yourself. And it could be like eating good food or chatting with your friend, but I say like maybe put your sometimes to like work out so that you can like really like develop that physical like needs for yourself and in your future, because that's something I regretted a lot.
I need to work out more now, Subin. So I would tell myself not to stress so much about the standardized testing. Again, like everything I did got me to the place where I am now. So I don't want to go back and say I want to like change everything, but I was so stressed about the tests. I went to a British international school, and so we didn't know much about the American system. And so I had to do like a lot of the studying by myself. I'm not the best test taker. I took the ACT 3 times. I took the SAT twice. I took like 3 different SAT2 subject tests, didn't even end up using them. I was also consumed with doing IB, and I was so intent on like getting a specific score, which I didn't even end up getting. But I was like, if I do not get this, like end of the world, like I cannot get into CMC, I cannot get into any college. And I did end up getting in, and I think it's because the application process is more holistic than one might think. I was helping my younger sister with her college application, and she also isn't the best quotation marks at standardized testing. But we are, me and my sister, we are good writers. We are, we like to have fun in interviews. We like to reach out to people. We like to email kind of people, and we chatted a lot to the admissions officers. We wanted to show that like we wanted to be at CMC. So at the end of the day, like try your hardest. We test, of course, but I would say to myself that's not the be all and end all, and score you ended up with is really good anyway. I mean, I believe it is. So yeah, that's me.
Mimi, very similar to you. I also took the SAT and ACT. Very interesting having to travel from mainland China to Hong Kong every time you take an SAT or ACT, things like that. Yes. So also don't do that. Like pick your choice early on. Don't have to like don't study for the SAT and ACT at the same time. Like that's not fun. You could be doing much more fun things like Subin said, work out or eat good food, hang out with your friends, do more research on actual college websites. Because I think the punchline here, and it might sound cheesy, but make yourself worth more than a number. Because if you make yourself a lot more holistic than just a score on the SAT or the ACT, that's going to be a lot more meaningful for the admission officers who read your applications. So just take that as your, maybe put it on your wall, I don't know, but just have fun with the process. And if I were the high school me, I would probably also take some time for myself, even take it in a way that may be more related to college applications. For example, instead of going to all those different activities I did over the summer, I would probably save like a week or two for myself just so I can travel to a beautiful place or stay at home and then start writing my essays. Because I didn't do that. I was all over the place and attending all sorts of different activities or summer school, things like that. So my essays were a little rushed. So if you have the choice, don't be like me.
This is amazing advice. And you know, you guys talking about the standardized testing, I mean, this is one of the advice the admissions officer gave too. It's not the golden admission ticket, and it is like everybody on this call is still test optional. And that is the trend for many, many schools, most schools in America right now. And so I love the piece about writing. I mean, I, as an adult, wish that I spent more time writing because this is a skill that is forever needed. So do that instead of trying to get a few more extra points on a test. Well, it is the end of the hour, and our sweet alumni have things to do. They have to go to work or go to bed in Subin's case. So we would love for you all to just keep in touch. Thank you so much for taking the time. This has been a real pleasure. I love this kind of talk because it's much more organic, and we love organic conversations at Initial View. So I did put up contact information for the admissions officers. They can direct you to other places that you should go, in addition to LinkedIn that's being promoted, but also all the other social media and such places for you to get more information. Please tune in again. We're going to take a break from Tuesday Talks next week due to some holidays and things, but we will be back on the 12th, and we're going to talk about fit. Especially, we heard that word over and over again today, match and fit. We're going to talk about fit with Stanford and Santa Clara on April 12th. So join us for then. And in the meantime, enjoy your afternoon, evening, morning, wherever you are. Thank you so much for joining. Oh, and if you want to stay on, a colleague of mine is going to hop on here and talk about Initial View. I know some of you are still not sure what Initial View is, have questions about interviews. So if you would like to hear more about that, please stay on for that. And we'll hang out for another 20 minutes or so. But I do want to let the alumni go. Thank you so much. Have a great day, night, evening. Bye.
Thank you so much. Lovely to meet everyone.
It's a pleasure. Thank you. And good night to people who are turning in from Korea. 안녕히 주무세요. Bye.
Thanks all. Take care. Good luck on your applications.
All right. Yo-Quinn.
Hello.
This is my colleague Yo-Quinn. She is going to tell you a little bit about Initial View. If you'd like to stay on, please definitely go ahead and stick on here. And Yo-Quinn, I'm going to let you take it away.
Sounds good. And hello, good morning, good evening, everybody. My name is Yo-Quinn. I'm a current interviewer at Initial View and also a former admissions officer. So we have the next 20 minutes or so together. So if you have any questions about interviews, about Initial View, about doing one, preparing for one, sending one, any questions you have, I'm happy to answer those here. 如果大家有任何跟面试或者 Initial View 相关的问题，在现在可以放到这个聊天框里面，然后我们会一一解答。然后我现在是Initial View 的一名面试官，然后之前也是斯沃斯摩尔学院的一名招生官，所以大家有任何跟面试相关的问题，现在可以在聊天框里进行提问。So we have a question, how important are the interviews compared to other components of the application? So if folks joined the session from last week, the last Initial View was about holistic review. So if you are hearing that word for the first time, it means that for the most part, admissions officers look at an application as a whole, right? So we look at every single component of the application, and really for schools that practice holistic review, not one part of the application is more or less important than another part. And specific to the interview, so I think what it does is that it gives the admissions officers a more personal aspect of who you are. So a lot of times admissions officers are tired of looking at documents and writings and numbers, which, you know, we sort of touched on a little bit in this session, but the interview is different. It is you talking. It is, you know, things that you might not have had the chance to talk about in your application. And for the most part, when I was an admissions officer at Swarthmore, I really enjoyed watching initial videos because I was able to see who the student was and to see them articulate for themselves their interests, their passions, the things that they enjoy doing in life. So I think it really gives that personal touch. And I would also say that an interview, when you're able to see the person that you're evaluating, it is much harder to say no to that person. So I think that personal touch is the most important part of an interview. And I think for a lot of cases, interviews helped the student, right, present a better case to the admissions officer. So in short, you know, I think they are an important aspect of an application. If you're able to do one, I encourage you to consider taking the opportunity to do an interview. But I would say in general, you know, every single part of the application is important. 下面一个问题是，面试的内容是固定的吗？所以面试的内容其实每个面试的内容都不一样。打个比方，一个面试可能在15分钟左右的长度，在 Initial View 的话，那我每次面试一个学生的时候，我不会提前想好，就是说我要问他这些问题，而是我会根据学生跟我聊天的这个过程中，探讨他的兴趣是什么，他平常在学校校内或者校外他喜欢做的事情，他对他来讲非常重要或者说非常感兴趣的学科是哪些，我会根据他跟我的分享来进行提问。所以不是每一个面试都不固定，也不会有固定的问题。这也是可能 Initial View 的特点，或者它跟别的面试不太一样的地方，就是它是完全依照着挖掘学生的兴趣，然后挖掘学生的闪光点，然后以此来呈现在招生官面前的。所以面试的内容并不是固定的，而是因学生而定。And just for folks who would appreciate English, translations of what I just said. So the content of interviews, they're not set. Every interview is different. I go into an interview not knowing what questions I would ask the student, but I wait for them to share it, for them to tell me their interests, the things that they're passionate about inside and outside of school. And then I ask questions for a second tier, questions which delve deeper into what they shared with me. So no, the questions are not set for an interview, and they're really dependent on what the student chooses to share and to talk about. Okay, so another question. So will you encourage applicants to express themselves fully? So I think yes. I think a lot of times students have questions about how do I prepare for an interview and what do I share? So I think an interview is a good opportunity for students to really think, you know, what is important to you, right? What subjects are important to you? What things in life are important to you? And for a lot of students, that might be the first time, you know, preparing an application or preparing for an interview to really think about these questions. So I would say, yes, they should express themselves fully, right? They should think about, hey, what are the things that I really want admissions officers to know about me? And maybe what are some of the things that I didn't get a chance to talk about in my application? And what are things that I want to emphasize, right? So one of the previous interviewees at Initial View shared this with me, and I thought it was a perfect kind of summary of what an interview does, is to let the admissions officers to know, is to show them the you that they already know and then the you that they don't know yet. So I think it's what you choose to emphasize from your application and the things that might not be there and that you want to share with them. And to really prepare for an interview, just think about the things that you enjoy doing, the things that are important to you, and be genuine, be candid. You know, interviewers have interviewed a lot of different students, and admissions officers have watched a lot of videos from interviewees, from applicants. So they're able to tell if you're truly passionate about something. So I would suggest that you're always sharing genuinely about your interests, about your life, and about the things that are important to you. So there's a question: what are the top 3 concerns when the interviewer does the interview? So I guess is, you know, what do you mean by like the 3 things that the interviewer thinks about when they interview a student? So kind of like what I was saying, you know, I would just think about, you know, what truly is the interest of the student, right? I might ask a question about history because they mentioned history, but they ended up not, you know, sharing a lot about history, and they started talking about, for example, international relations, which turned out to be their true passion, right? So I think one thing I think about the most in an interview is what really is the student's interest, what is their passion? And then I choose to go deeper and I ask second-tier questions, and I ask, you know, further about a project they did, or like, you know, their observation, something they learned. But I think that's the one thing that I'm most concerned with during an interview. And just so everybody knows, for students who choose to do an interview with Initial View, the interviewer does not give any sort of rating or comments or any sort of evaluation before sending that video completely to the admissions offices. So Initial View is completely neutral on your interview experience. So the AOs can choose to evaluate your admissions video however they would like it. So I think that's another thing that's special about the Initial View interviews. So, okay, there's a question about how the interviewers are assigned. Yes, they are randomly assigned. We have a team of interviewers who are all super qualified and who have done trainings on interviews, and many of whom are former admissions officers at American universities and colleges. So, whoever is available at the time that you choose will most likely be the one that interviews you. And the beauty is that you can choose from a lot of different time slots. So when you choose to do an interview, you'll be able to see the calendar and the different time slots, and whoever is available then will be your interviewer. And no, so a student cannot request to be interviewed by a specific interviewer. Mm-hmm.然后如果有需要中文的朋友呢，就是initial view 面试的面试官是随机跟学生匹配的，所以学生会在你决定做面试的时候，你会看到我们的这个日历，我们的就是你可以约的时间，然后在这个约的时间，如果是有空的这个面试官就会跟这个学生进行一个配对。那么 initial view 的面试官都是非常有经验的，都在教育行业非常多年然后很多是以前的大学招生官，包括一些国内外高中的可能指导学校的老师，所以都会对这个面试这个或者是申请大学这个过程都非常了解，所以然后如果一个学生是不可以，就是说我想要这个面试官面试我是不行的，因为都是随机根据时间来匹配的。Okay, so can students do interviews more than one time? If so, which one will be used by the colleges? So students can choose to interview more than one time. So sometimes, for every interview that a student does, we send it to the student and we ask them if they're happy with this interview. And if they're not, they can choose to pay to do another interview. And theoretically, you can do as many interviews as you want, and whichever you're most happy with, whichever one you would like admissions officers to see will be the one that we will send to admissions offices for you. And although that is possible, we do recommend, or we do suggest that students only do one interview because, sometimes I think students get too kind of wound up by what they say or what they didn't say in an interview. But for the most part, the first interview will be the best one. And we just tell students to not think too much about it. But if you're really not happy with the first try, you can opt in for further interviews. And whichever you choose to be seen by admissions offices will be the only video that we send. So you have, complete control on that process as well. And right, so does initial view see the rest of the student's application? So we do not have access to anything else other than your admissions video, which then we sort of kind of bridge. We act like the bridge right between you and the admissions offices. And then once we send in the video, it then shows up in admissions officers. So they have a reader called, most of them use Slate, sometimes Salesforce, but they have a reader, and on the left, there are different tabs, right? Like transcripts and scores and recommendations. And if you choose to send a video from initial view, it will then become another tab called initial view. And during admissions review, admissions officers can just hop over to that tab, click play, and then watch/listen to your video and look at your writing sample as well. So normally the college will give this interviewer some preferred student instructions in advance. So right, the question, so what does, do the colleges, universities give Initial View any instructions on, the content of the interview? So no, there are no instructions from different colleges, universities, and the interview that you do with Initial View is the same despite however many colleges you're applying to, and it will be the same video that will be sent to these schools that you apply to. And all of our partner schools trust Initial View interviews, and they're able to really look at an application, evaluate an application with the help of Initial View video. So they do not give us any instructions, and they're able to take our videos or the questions that we send. The only thing that we do kind of mark for admissions officers is for each video, we mark a question to which the student we thought had a great answer, or an answer that we would like to point admissions officers to during their review. Other than that, we do not, mark anything or give further evaluations. It is the video that we send to colleges. And Initial View video interviews are different from the interviews offered by each college or each university, right? And they might ask more specific questions, but for the most part, they might not have the bandwidth to interview every student who's applying to their college to give them an interview. So for a lot of students, like this, who might not be able to get a school-based interview, Initial View is a pretty good option. Okay, so I think. Okay, so right, I'm seeing questions in the Q&A section as well, so thanks for those. So high fives, so right, a question about high fives. It's a feature that Initial View has. So really it's a tool that you can use to connect with an admissions officer. So if you express that you're interested in a certain school, you're able to send, a high five to the school, and the admissions officer, at that university or at that college will be able to send something back to you, right? So you kind of form this connection, and you're able to let a school know that you're interested in the school. So that is one feature that Initial View has kind of during your college search process or in your application process. And there's another feature called Yellow Roses, which we offer for students who are waitlisted. So say that you applied to a number of schools, and you're waitlisted at a school that you really want to attend, which might be your dream school. So Yellow Roses allows you to give that rose to a school to let them know that they are your top choice and you really want to attend this school. So one way to really express your demonstrated interest, which can play a big part in the waitlist process. So another thing that you'll be able to do if you do Initial View interviews. Okay, other than the interviews, does Initial View offer any counseling services for students? So no, Initial View is, for the most part, just interviews. And obviously there are lots of different projects and programs that are offered, such as in Tuesday Talk, which, it's in its third year, and we've had so many counselors and admissions officers be part of this to share information that we think is just really important and valuable for students who are going through this process. But other than that, we do not offer counseling service per se to students. Okay, you're very welcome. So yeah, we've hit the 9:20 mark. So we're gonna let everyone go, and so you can enjoy the rest of your evening or mornings. But we will have this section in every Initial View Tuesday Talk. So not next week, but the following week after Tuesday Talk, we will always stay for another 20 minutes in case you have any questions about interviewing, about Initial View, or just anything that comes to mind after a Tuesday Talk. So thank you so much for attending, and thank you so much for being here, and enjoy the rest of your day or evening. Bye, everybody.